Welcome and hello. This is a video lesson in Python for Water Resources titled Object-Oriented Programming. Object-oriented programming involves creating classes which serve as templates for creating objects. Objects created from the same class share the same properties and methods. The actual properties of the values can be different. You don't have to install something specific for using object-oriented programming. Like you don't need to do any pip install operations. It's already built into Python. And we're going to be running through a number of examples and demonstrating some of the main concepts involved with object-oriented programming. What we have on the screen is our very first example. So stream gauge, this is the name of the class. We have this keyword class and then the name of the class, colon, and then everything indented under that is part of this class. So down here, gauge 1 and gauge 2, that's not part of the class definition, but it is going to be creating a stream gauge object. The only thing in this class right now is our constructor function, or sometimes called an initializer function. It runs automatically to create the stream gauge object. So everything in this function automatically runs when the stream gauge object is created right down here. For instance, gauge 1 and gauge 2 are going to be stream gauge objects because they're created from the stream gauge class. So think of the class as sort of a template that gets used to create new objects, which have a specific format and can contain some of the same attributes and methods. So this is a very simple class right now. There's really not too much involved. What we're going to be doing is when we create an object like gauge 1, I'm going to be passing in a couple of parameters here, specifically the station ID and the name. Self right here just refers to the object being created. So this station ID, for instance, is this number for gauge 1 and this number for gauge 2. And then the name is this name and this name for gauges 1 and 2. They are assigned as attributes to this particular object. So what's important is that this station ID and this station ID are the same variable name. And then this station ID right here is a newly created variable that we're calling station ID. So that's not too uncommon to do it this way, but just for an object lesson, we can call this variable DDD and then this variable DDD, and it would still work, but it's just harder to keep track of. It makes more sense to actually call that variable what the value of the data represents. All right, so station ID and name. One class can be used to create many objects like we're demonstrating here. We have two separate stream gauge objects with the same structure, behavior, but different data. We can add additional attributes to this object. So up here in the class, in the constructor function, I'm going to add in a latitude and longitude right here. And then further down, I'm going to assign that to my class. So we could pass in a latitude and a longitude, and then that'll be assigned as a property value or attribute of that particular object. So down here, if I wanted to create a stream gauge object with a latitude longitude, I can go ahead and just specify a lat and a long. So this gauge 2 doesn't have that data. I'll just delete that. Now let's go ahead and add a method as part of this class. So down here, I'll give myself a couple lines, and then this needs to be indented. So this method is called getFlow, and it just says pass right here. So the function doesn't do anything at the moment. This word pass really just serves as a placeholder so that we don't get any syntax errors. But this function right here is within our class. So after we create an object, we now have access to reference that getFlow method. Okay, I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. What I want to do next is clean this up a little bit. I'm going to remove the latitude, longitude, just like that. And let me give myself another few rows right here. So what I'm doing is creating a second class. Here, I'm going to put the terminal over here on the side. That's a little better. Now we have a reservoir class. We have a constructor function, and we have a method called getStorage. So the stream gauge class has a method called getFlow. The reservoir class has a name and an elevation, and getStorage is the name of its one and only method. And I'm just using the keyword class here again, so that's just a placeholder. The function doesn't actually do anything at the moment. And I should probably also remove the lat long there when we're creating our stream gauge object, gauge 1. If I wanted to create a reservoir object, what it would look like is right here. I've got reservoir 1 and a reservoir 2. I'm going to be passing in the name and the elevation. So there's the name, there's the elevation of reservoir 1, similar with reservoir 2. We wanted to print out the name and elevation of, say, reservoir 1. That's what we're doing right down here. I'm saying print reservoir name and then res1 dot name. That's how to access the name attribute of the reservoir res1 object. Now the res1 object already has that data saved because we're saving the name right here at the moment the object is created. And a similar concept with the elevation, where we are printing out the res1 elevation value that's in feet and it's being converted to a string. So let's finally run this and see if we get some output. I'm going to save this and come over here to the terminal, and this looks good. Res1 name says Folsom, Res1 elevation says 400 feet. Now say for instance, this Folsom name is ignored when we create the object res1 and we just gave it a different name, which you probably don't want to do, but I'm just going to demonstrate it anyway. We are creating the reservoir object right here in init. And then for name, instead of using the name that's passed in, what if I just called it Thomas and then save? Then what we should see up here when printing out the reservoir name, it should say Natomas. In fact, every reservoir is going to have the name Natomas the way we did it here. So save, let's clear that and run it. The reservoir name is now Natomas. The string Folsom we passed in is just being ignored. Okay, so I'm going to set that back and save. Next, I'm going to update my functions or methods. Get storage right here. This is the function that's in our reservoir class. I'm going to, instead of pass, I'm just going to hard code it in and say return 750,000. And while I'm out at it, I'm also going to update the get flow method within the stream gauge class. For lack of time and space, I'm just going to hard code a return value of 4,500. And at the very bottom, what I'm going to do is print out the name of the reservoir. But what I'm going to do after that is print out the reservoir storage and the reservoir flow by calling the get storage function and get flow function, but one at a time. So I've got my line 17 commented out to get flow. We'll take a look at that later. What we should expect here is reservoir 1, res1, this object's going to be created, and then we are going to print out the storage, which is just hard-coded 750,000. Right, so let's clear that, and boom, that is good. Res1 storage is 750,000. No problem there because get storage is a method within the reservoir class. However, if I try to run the get flow method, you see what the problem might be. Get flow is actually a method within the stream gauge class, not the reservoir class. So let's just see what that gives us when we run it. And we have an error message. This is called attribute error. Basically, it's telling us that the reservoir class does not have a get flow method. All right, we're going to demonstrate how to change in property value for an object. I'm going to remove the stream gauge class completely. We're going to keep the reservoir class. I'm going to also just delete the get storage method, and then I'm going to paste in a new method called update elevation. And then down here, I'm going to create an object, print out the elevation, update the elevation, and then print it out again. So what I'm doing is creating my reservoir with an elevation of 400. I'm going to print out that elevation. So it should say res1 elev equals 400. Then we're going to run this new method called update elevation. We're going to pass it 405. That 405 elevation is going to be used to assign the elevation to that same self reservoir. And then we're going to print out that object's elevation property value once again. So this line right here, self.elevation equals elevation, is the exact same as what we're doing right here. Let's go ahead and see what happens. Come over here to the terminal, run. Reservoir 1 elevation is 400. Reservoir 1 elevation equals 405. Another example of modifying an object I have on my clipboard and ready to demonstrate regarding the reservoir class. This time we're creating a reservoir class with a, what is this, storage of 500,000. And then we're going to be calling this release method, which is going to decrease the value of the storage by the value, or in this case, the volume that we pass in, which is 25,000. right? At the very end, we're going to be printing out the reservoir one's storage. So we could actually print this out both before and after that deduction of calling the release method. So let's do that. Save and come over here to run. Go. All right, cool. Reservoir one storage, 500,000 acre feet. And then after releasing 25,000, we're down to 475,000 acre feet. So far, all of our attributes have been object-specific attributes, such as the name and the storage in this example. But object-oriented programming also supports class attributes, sometimes called static attributes. So let me give you an example of that. Here is our stream gauge class. Units right here at the very top, this is a class attribute. As you notice, it's not built within the constructor function. It's going to be units of CFS, and that's going to be true for every single object, every single stream gauge object. And then down below, we have what we've already seen. We see a constructor function or an initializer function, and then we are populating the name and the flow. So when we create a new stream gauge, like gauge 1 or gauge 2, we need to provide the object-specific properties, such as the station ID and the name and the flow. But we don't need to provide the units. Those are defined up here at the class level. Like I said, that's going to be true for every object of the class. And we're going to demonstrate that down here at the very last couple lines, where we're going to be printing out the flow for gauge 1. Oops, this is supposed to be gauge 2. So gauge 1 flow, gauge 2 flow, and there's going to be different values right here, but they should both be reporting, CFS here for the units. Okay, so I'm going to save that, come over here to the terminal, clear, run. Very cool. So we have CFS and CFS, that's constant, and then the flow rate value for the two different gauges is different. Python also supports static methods. So what you see on the screen is another example that's demonstrating static methods. It is identified by using the static method decorator tag right here. And one thing that's different about static methods is that it's not referencing itself, because the method itself doesn't need to rely on the calling object's properties. Right, so what we're doing here is just converting CFS to MGD. It doesn't matter what the object properties are, that's not going to change. We just multiply it by a conversion factor right here. So what I'm doing is creating a gauge 1 object with a name and a flow rate, and then I'm printing out the flow and the flow in units of CFS, and then after converting it to million gallons per day. So let's go ahead and clear and run. Here is our results, 1000 CFS, no surprise there. And then after the conversion, looks like it's 664 MGD. There are a number of advanced topics with regard to object-oriented programming. I'm going to talk about two of them and then list off a few others after that. The first one here is called composition. Composition is when an object contains another object. We have a class called dam, and we have a class called reservoir, both of which have some of their own properties, such as the name and height for the dam, the name and the dam for the reservoir. You see where I'm going with this. The reservoir has an object as one of its properties. So we're first going to define the dam. We'll call it Folsom Dam, and we'll say that its height is 340. And then we're going to define an reservoir object, reservoir 1, and it's expecting a name and a dam, which is its own separate object. So we're going to be passing it dam 1. That way, the reservoir object, reservoir 1, has access to not only its own properties, such as the name, but it also has access to the dam's properties, such as the dam name and the dam height, which we're printing out down here. So the reference is reservoir.name for the reservoir's own name, and then the dam's name is going to be reservoir1.dam.name, and then the reservoir height is going to be reservoir1.dam.height. So I don't need to read it for you. I just wanted to point out that we have an extra level in the notation and the organization of the data within a reservoir object. Right, so let's go ahead and run that. So clear, run. Here we go. We have our reservoir name, our dam name, and our dam height. The next advanced topic within object-oriented programming, and the last one I'm really going to have an example for in this lesson, is called inheritance. Inheritance allows one class to inherit the object and methods of another class. So what you see here is an example. We have a class called reservoir. That's more of a general class. And then we have a specific class name called flood control reservoir, with reservoir in parentheses, and then a super method call right here. In this situation, we don't have to explicitly call the reservoir class if we're creating an object of flood control reservoir. This more specific class, flood control reservoir, that's what we're calling here, res1. And just like normal, we're going to provide a name and a storage and a flood pool. Now for flood pool, that doesn't exist in the main reservoir attribute assignment, so we're just going to assign the flood pool value directly right here. However, the name and the storage are already assigned right here in the what you may call a parent class, the class that's being referenced as the parent, that whose attributes are being inherited. That's where the super function comes in. So we're passing it name and storage to match name and storage. And each of these classes also has a method to report or self-identify some of its properties. Report for the reservoir class and report flood pool for the flood control reservoir class. And that should work because of the inheritance properties. This report method right here is being called from res1. Res1 is a flood control reservoir, which is created from this class right here. However, there's no report method within that class. And when we encountered this issue earlier in the video, earlier in this lesson, that happened to be a problem, except that's not going to be a problem now because this report method does exist in the reservoir class, which is inherited. The report flood pool method right here, there's nothing special about that. We're just going to be printing out the flood pool storage apparently. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. Clear and run. Then here are our results. We have the Folsom Lake total storage of 975 and then the flood pool storage of 400,000 acre feet. A few other concepts regarding object-oriented programming I didn't cover with examples in this lesson, but you're welcome to look into are method overriding, polymorphism, encapsulation, and interfaces. And that concludes this lesson on object-oriented programming in Python for water resources.